Welcome to The Journey. And my name is Kevin Polkey, and I am the host of The Journey. And today we are going to continue our reflection on this idea of that we started a few weeks ago about uh, changing routines, replacing habits or behaviors. Um, I remember as a young person, football was probably my first sport or activity that that I had immersed myself in. Uh, some of it had a lot to do with influence from my father, who had played football in high school, uh, had then had the opportunity to be all-state for Beloit Memorial in the early 60s, and then had the opportunity as a result of that to go and continue playing at the Division I level in college and settled on Iowa State as a school that he played for. And then his continued love, even after he wasn't playing anymore, for the sport probably influenced me to gravitate toward football. Reading about certain football stars at that time in the 70s as a young person at the church library or the public library, um, continued to instill that aspect of um, uh, wanting to be better than average in football. I remember in, I believe, fourth grade, the movie Rocky came out and being mesmerized as we watched the movie with my family at the drive-in theater, uh, and specifically the training scenes as well as the fighting scenes. I don't really mu comprehend or understood much of the storyline outside of the training scenes. And then, of course, the fighting scenes and the resilience that you saw Rocky portray in that fight against Apollo Creed. I remember early on having a strong desire to wanting to be competitive and be able to compete and be a contributor on the team. And that the idea for me to sit on the bench was somehow equal to that I had failed. And so the summer before my seventh grade year, um, that is when I started lifting weights as I was preparing for the seventh and eighth grade football team in football season. That was the first year in middle school back then where you could play sports, and there was no community junior tackle league at that time, at least not in the area that I grew up. And that continued until continued that idea of the preparation and the training in the off season and preseason regarding getting ready for the season, as well as the weightlifting that I did then all year round and later turned into wrestling and bodybuilding. I remember by the time that I was old enough to play on the varsity squad and being looked at as potentially contributing as a sophomore and then later starting as a junior, that that because of the conference being so competitive at that time, um, that and we had at a varsity level for the school that I was going to had not won a lot of varsity games. A 3-6 season was had been at that point for numerous years would be um, a lot of wins for our varsity team. I remember thinking to myself, all right, Kevin, what are you going to do? Disliking the feeling of losing a game, the anguish of after the game was over and knowing that the scoreboard reflected that we had lost that particular competition just was had such an unsettling feeling as competitive as I was at that young time period in my life. And then I remember saying to myself, Kevin, what can you control? This is a team sport. There's going to be 10 other guys on the offensive side of the ball besides you and 10 other guys on the defensive side of the ball. What is it that you can control? And I realized that at that time, at 14, 15 years old, the only thing that I could control was the amount of time and effort that I went into preparation in the off season, weight training and conditioning, and then during practice. That was about all I can control. The only thing I can control the night of the game was I following the plays that were being called? Was I making sure that my effort was at 100% my capacity and that regardless of what was happening, having a mindset and a spirit of not giving up, regardless of where the ball was on the field or what the scoreboard said. Meaning remembering that the frustration of being down by 30 points, but still having 60 seconds left in the clock and not wanting to come off the field because I could still make or still participate in one more play. It didn't necessarily always change the outcome. In both those years, my junior and my senior year, we were 3-6. It didn't change the outcome of the score, but it did allow me to sleep okay because I knew that I gave my 100%, that was the thing that I could control when everything else seemed to be so much more going on. I think of how does that apply to 2026 when I um, have not participated or put a helmet on to compete or shoulder pads to compete for an extended amount of time now. Even for that matter, I haven't actually even been on a coaching sideline for an extended period of time. How does this apply to my work life, to work with my clients, for a workshop or seminar that I'm doing, or just in my own personal life? In the midst of everything around us, what is it that I can control? I can control my actions, what I do or don't do. I can control, am I preparing myself for the next day the night before? Do I have a plan for what I'm going to do the next day? Am I following through with that plan? Am I making sure that I go to bed at an early enough time on Monday night so that I can make sure that I get up when the alarm goes off on Tuesday morning to be able to do my morning routine and rituals before I leave for the day? That when I come home at night, that I do my evening routine before I settle in to do some type of leisure activity with Diane. That I know with the consistency of doing that, even the things that I don't necessarily that come easy for me, or there's discomfort, stretching, certain types of exercises, cardio work, that I know how important the discipline of doing those things regarding overall health and well-being and minimizing physical discomfort. I imagine there are probably more things that we can control if we choose to look at and differentiate between the things I can control and the things that I can't control. I saw a quote recently that I thought would be appropriate to this, going back to this idea of what I can control. It's an invitation or a challenge. If you want, you could find a million reasons to hate life and be angry at the world. Or if you want, you could find a million reasons to love life and be happy. Choose wisely. Let me read that again. If you want, you could find a million reasons to hate life and be angry at the world. Or if you want, you could find a million reasons to love life and be happy. So the challenge is to choose wisely. So I'll leave you with this. Each of us have a handful of things that we have the ability to control. Our actions, what we do with our thoughts, what we do with the feelings or emotions that we have, and to let go of the things that are someone else's in someone else's camp. That we can control our response to things or how much we entertain or engage something, or we just let it go and we turn figuratively to a different channel. It's not about not caring. It's about what are we feeding ourselves with. And I know for me, I do better if I look for and find a million reasons to love life and be happy. I do better when I choose to do that. As always, thank you for being here and look forward to being with you next week.